So hello, here we are for another Saturday Night Live Zoom. And today we have a very special guest, Alia. I was speaking earlier, we got all Arab women tonight, so I died and went to Arab with all these beauties here. So Alia,
Yes.
what can you tell us about you?
Oh my goodness. Firstly, it's such a blessing and a pleasure and an honor to be here. With really, I'm a huge fan. This is like being, with movie stars to me because,
Movie stars.
wallahi, I swear, you and Renan and so many of the admins have literally changed my life, and you have paved the way, I know, for me and so many others. So I thank you from, the depths of my soul. Thank you. And Rena, thank you so much for your love all over the board, all over Facebook. Yeah, definitely.
You're welcome. Unless the person makes the choice and does what they need to do, nothing happens. And this is the key. We're just sharing the information, right? We're just the messengers, and help bring more people together, inspire each other. This is what it's all about. And we've had great successes in helping support people, which is wonderful. So maybe tell us a little bit about how you grew up, basic diet.
Yeah, sure. Happy to.
How you got involved in the health thing and
sure
like that.
Yes.
Blabber away.
With pleasure. With pleasure. As you opened with, like you're surrounded by Arab women, so I feel I'm in the company of my sisters, and I grew up in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, and it's so wonderful to have Rana here and Noor here. It's amazing to have my Arab sisters. What a nice, amazing surprise. I grew up in Jeddah, which is on the Red Sea. So I was blessed to spend all my time. Oh, thank you, Habibi. I was blessed to spend so much time at the beach growing up. And my family is still there. I've been in the United States now from a little over 7 years in Texas. And I always said I would never live in the United States and I would never live in Texas. So, of course.
And that's where you ended up.
So, of course, I'm here. And I'm in Austin, which is really wonderful. Jeddah, where I grew up, is it's beautiful by the sea. And I was fortunate always to be surrounded in community with my family. And of course, the downsides of that is you're always eating like everybody else does, which, if you know anything about Arab grandmothers, there's, a lot of like, eat, eat, eat. And she loves to make all this, what you call samosas here, a lot of the fried stuff. But I wouldn't say that my diet was particularly bad. I read some of the stuff on Facebook on the page, and some people talk about truly rubbish food that they were introduced to. For us, it was more, if we went to Hardee's or if we went to, Dairy Queen or something, it's really just, it was a treat once in a while. And we got home-cooked food all the time. But as I've come to learn, food combining is so important. And when I think back to it, at my grandmother's house, for example, we go eat there all the time. My family is still there, and they do this, they go to my grandmother's several times a week. And after the meal, for example, there's always fruit immediately following the meal, especially watermelon.
Just like Italians.
Oh la la. You read about it now, and I'm just, of course, blown away by how little we know. Mm-hmm. In addition to the terrible food combining during the meals. But for me, everything shifted very drastically. When I was 3.5 years old, I was rushed to hospital for an emergency appendectomy. I had my appendix removed, and it's so clear in my mind. So to have something so
You remember?
rough, I remember everything.
Wow.
Leading up to it. My mom's mother was there visiting. God rest her soul. She was a nurse, and she noticed I was behaving very strangely. I remember she's suggested I lie down for a bit of kip for a nap. To see, maybe, I just didn't feel well. And when I awoke, I remember screaming in pain and running around and was sick. And she suggested it may be my appendix, and they rushed me there for surgery. And I remember meeting the surgeon. I remember them putting the mask on me, my family arriving and saying prayers over me, and going into anesthesia. And I remember coming out very clearly. And then the hospital stay, just being in excruciating pain post-surgery. And then all the different things that began happening to my body. At 3.5, I remember very clearly watching my right leg and foot sort of start to curve in. And I'm wondering, maybe it's like the fascia, the scar tissue that built up to turn my hip inward. And quite soon after that, I had chronic neck issues and was sort of frozen like this. If you can see this type of thing. I had special uniforms made with Velcro because I would just be like frozen. And I've had some body workers talk to me about what can happen with scar tissue building up along the right side of your body after abdominal surgery. And it can tie into the liver and the gallbladder along the meridian. And the acupuncturist I've seen was not surprised at all that I've had liver gallbladder issues since I was so young. Many stones, so much pain, so much issues metabolizing fats, just excruciating pain all the time. Now that I'm older, I understand some of this stuff, having read what can happen all along the right side of your body. And I remember becoming so severely depressed beginning around that time and being overwhelmed by suicidal thoughts. And I wouldn't. This is 3.5 years old.
Wow.
This is when I had the surgery. Yeah, it was a very early awakening, I would say. However, it wasn't depression and suicide, nothing new to me. My mom's side of the family battles with it, extreme battles with it. She's lost many family members to suicide, gunshots, and hanging themselves, either cancer or they kill themselves. It's pretty much it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, a lot of, very sadly, a lot of colon cancer. And, of course, now when I read what I have and just what you can tie in between your health and your colon's health, etc., and then your mental and emotional state, they battle with a lot of addiction, alcoholism, etc. So I remember coming out of anesthesia, and the first thing I did was to check to see if my mom was alive. I remember that very clearly. She was already battling so much depression when I was a child, and it only became worse and worse as she battled deeper into the addictions that she's really struggled with, sadly, and that took the lives of many of her siblings and mother. There's so much beauty there as well. So much beauty. They're also a wild family. My mom's side, they're wild and sort of there's a genius about them, you know. So I mean, a lot of times addiction can also be tied into genius and art and that type of thing, which is always so intriguing to me. Then I would say, please, was there something you were going to say?
Yeah, your mother's still alive now?
She is, yes.
Oh, good. So you have any issues with the thyroid yourself?
My mom has heaps of issues with thyroid. All of her side does. And the aunties, really everybody from my father's side as well. The women on both sides. But yes, my mom really struggles with thyroid issues.
That's, for calcium utilization, that ties into depression a lot with when people have plugged up thyroids. And it carries in through the genetics.
Yes.
If we don't make some changes. So,
yes.
But how do you say eat in Arabic?
To a person, like kuli. To a woman, you would say, like to the feminine is kuli. And to the masculine, it's kul, like enta.
Okay, so it's like masculine and feminine.
Yeah. Mangi in Italian, right? Yeah. Oh, these thyroids though. Oh my God, both sides of my family. There's a lot of thyroid cancer on my father's side of the family. It's, excuse me, I'll mute this. Complications continued from there. I do remember growing up, I have an older sister, about 6 years older. And unfortunately, my introduction to what it looked like to be a woman is she has severe endometriosis, and every month around her cycle, she would be vomiting and feverish. I'm not exaggerating when I say she's crawling on her abdomen on the floor from the pain.
Wow.
To get to a rubbish bin to vomit from, severe migraines, issues with all sorts of, and she can't even wear a tiny chain necklace around her neck will cause her the most severe migraines. She has her hair so short because even a tiny bit of hair, her head will almost explode. Yeah, there's a lot of, from my father's side, sort of neurological migraine, like very strange things with the head and neck. And so that was quite the blueprint to see also, my older sister going through that. So what it meant to be a woman to me was pretty horrible, and I decided I don't want that. I remember deciding if that's what it means to be a woman, then I have to find out what causes one to be a woman, and I found out it's the ovaries. Like I simplified it down to your ovaries. And then in my child mind, I said, then I must destroy my ovaries. Wow. And I prayed night and day, God forgive me, I prayed night and day to kill my ovaries. So, no surprise, I've had a lot of issues with female reproductive stuff, uterus, ovaries, cysts. I had tumors in my ovaries a few years ago. And when I started menstruating, I started when I was about 15 and hid it for 2 years from everyone. Very ashamed of it. I didn't want to have it. Again, like not wanting to be a woman, being very confused about everything. And I just remember my life then drastically changed one more time, which I think it can be typical for an adolescent around puberty to go through mood swings. However, for me, it felt, I ended up in hospital a few times getting my stomach pumped from overdosing on painkillers from the depression and my battle with suicide. Like really, yeah. God bless my parents. They don't. What do you do with a 16-year-old that's so committed to killing herself or harming herself. And like many teenagers, I began cutting and self-harming, and around puberty is when it really set in, all my eating, what I would call disordered eating, and my confusion around my body, and going in between, sort of vacillating like a maniac between extreme discipline around not eating anything and then sort of binging and going back and forth. And I think so many of us have this experience of
Yeah, I think everybody who eats has an eating disorder.
Yes, absolutely. I think there's levels. My mom moved away when I was about 12 to another country. My parents are still married, but she decided to leave, and it was extreme disruption. And I definitely feel around 12 or 11, I bound. I don't know how you say, but how humans can sort of imprint on something. People do it with alcohol or shopping or whatever, and I definitely did it with food to help me feel better. Right? I mean, it was just this place that grounded me and made me feel safe. It gave me a sense of, and then, controlling it gave me a strong sense of power and control. It's like I get to decide when I'm going to eat, and then, losing control and then feeling shamed of it. And that just insanity of that cycle that you can't break out of, between self-loathing, disgust, and you go loop on and on and on. At university, I got a scholarship to study in the United States. It was my first time being away from home and eating food that wasn't prepared at home, basically. And if you know anything about university cafeteria food, the canteen food is, oh my God, just the most rubbish. And I definitely went all the way into all the rubbish food, that I indulged in occasionally back home, but now I just went mad, because they have an endless supply, right? In the United States, there's an endless supply of anything you can imagine.
At what age was that?
I was almost 18 for university. And then, like many people, their first year of university, you balloon up, kilos and kilos, probably most of it inflammation from the pastries and the blah, blah, blah. And you live on, university students, we live on what? Cereal? I was still doing dairy back then, and wheat and everything just imaginable to plug my system up.
All the good stuff.
all the best, right? And then just battling with more and more depression, the sugar blues. And if you've ever read that book, the sugar, it's such a real thing, right? You go up and crash and up and crash. And I was very fortunate that my second year ended up in the psych ward, also overdosing again on some painkillers. And the dean of students, God bless her. She stood up for me, because the university was going to have me expelled because I was in the dormitory when it happened, and they can't, for legal reasons, they would have expelled me. And she stepped in on my behalf, and she said, get it together. I'm going to have you, I'll find a way for you to stay at university so you can graduate. But, get it together, get help, So then seeing a psychiatrist and then being on medication for that, anti-anxieties, antidepressants, etc. Just makes your liver, right? The liver worse, etc.
Yeah, many other things, but this is what's out there.
Right. And throughout this time, hearing the very sad news of either, my uncles, my mother's older brothers, for example, deciding to end their lives, my grandmother, being rescued at the last second, but then dying, dying very slowly of colon cancer after that. And yeah, and then there's just a lot there. There's a lot there with both sides of the family.
Wow.
I always considered myself very blessed. My father's side of the family, they have such extreme constipation that they are all either on very heavy medication or they have to have surgical intervention to remove obstructions from their colon. Some of them have not gone for months. I considered myself very lucky that, once a day I could, but oh my God. Now, after what I've seen from MFS, even if you're not eating, how much comes out of you, I just can't even imagine. Some of my family members that don't go for a month or two, what is their body? This is terrifying to me. It breaks my heart.
Well,
to think.
It's out there. I've known about these, people that haven't gone for like 1 or 2 months. It's just it's hard to comprehend what the body's doing with all that stuff. It's just impacting it.
Yes.
It's just crazy.
Yes. And no surprise, all of them have such the type of migraines that you have, projectile vomiting and severe kidney issues, etc. Of course, knowing what I know now, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
When you're that toxic,
goes all hand in hand. Yeah.
Yeah, and as you've spoken about, they can't have anything on their heads. Even the slightest pressure around the neck, like I said, a tiny chain necklace, or even earrings sometimes. Like my older sister can't even have the tiniest earrings. It will bring on a migraine for her. It's so intense.
And this is with all homemade, meals, right?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would never say that we, compared to some people, I would never say that we didn't grow up with red meat. We grew up on the sea, so primarily seafood. So I wouldn't say that our diet was, it wasn't the most exceptional thing, but it's not the worst. So for those on a sad diet, oh dear God, right?
See the outcome.
which I experienced at university many years ago when the first time I came to the US and studied here.
Many years? It seems like maybe just a few years.
Sometimes it feels like a few years ago. That was 1996.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, at uni between 96 and 2000. So, yeah. And the sad story just sort of continues from there and gets kind of worse and worse until for the past few years, I would say, and you come to a place over and over where you think, how this can't be it, right? Like it absolutely can't. This can't be my life. Living right, and not only with the thoughts. I mean, for me, this obsessive thoughts of suicide and depression and shame and if anybody with a severe food addiction, I'm sure you can understand this. Everything around your life revolves around either avoiding your next, like how to distract yourself from the next meal, or navigating being at the office where people are eating, or not being able to eat in front of people because of the shame, but then having to like hide the food. It's just this complete insanity that took over my life in terms of, and then the loss of control, and then binging, and then repeat back and forth, but it feels so much of your emotional and mental energy goes towards either obsessing about the next meal. For example, I don't even know how to describe. It's like I saw a cartoon once, a little comic strip that was like, there was a cartoon character smoking all of these cigarettes and already thinking of the next cigarette. So it's like I can't get away from these thoughts, you know, it's torturous. And with that, sometimes even my body became so sensitive to things, even though I was eating very clean almost always. But sometimes even some steamed spinach would have me in agony for 3 days. God knows what was going on. I have you know, it was like fire burning through my entire body. I don't know if it was.
So when you went to school in the US, you remained there? You didn't go back?
It was 4 years for university, and I did return to the Middle East for several years. Yeah, prior to this, I was in Dubai. I was working for a few years in Dubai. And the breaking point in Dubai happened for me when I actually collapsed at work. And the cyst in my ovaries had suddenly exploded, and I was rushed to emergency room. Yeah, they turned out to be tumors, which thank God I found an amazing doctor of Chinese medicine here that had some incredible herbs to help my body really shrink. That was several years ago. They haven't returned, thank God. I've been worked very closely with him. But so for me,
cancerous tumors?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Now, what stage they were at, or etc., I didn't even bother to look into that. For me, it was just like, yes, I know any kind of pain. These are all alarm systems, and I knew my body was crying for help, and I didn't know how to help her. I simply didn't. When I was in Dubai, a doctor there put me on, if you're familiar with metformin, she put me on 500 milligrams 3 times a day for the cysts, which when I read about metformin now, it's just the most insane thing. I was on such a high dose, and it was actually so toxic, and it didn't help me at all. It actually just made me extremely sick. And I think it worsened my depression. Definitely.
Yeah, I've never seen meds help anybody.
Right? Exactly. And I'm definitely the type that was always against it. My family was always trying to pour on the meds more and more with me, you know, for more antidepressants or more whatever. And I eventually was able to wean myself off a lot of stuff. But, you know, it's not like I'm the type that's like, oh yeah, give it to me. Metformin is common. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, with PCOS, exactly. But
yeah, and type diabetes too, right?
Absolutely. But at the level I was taking, she put me on 500 milligrams 3 times a day, which later I found out from functional medicine and biology was just like, it's a ridiculous level. You know, my body did not need that high a level. So it explains why it was making me so sick. However, the way I am, I don't care how sick it makes me. If I've committed to something, it was 10 weeks of severe nausea, and I just was like, nope, it's the way it should be. I've committed. Yeah. But you know what, Gino? This is what, leading up to MFS, this is how, you know, it's when I decide on something, I'm very rigorous, and I put my heart and soul and body and discipline in it. So there's the exalted part of that, right? Which is committing. I just have to be careful what I'm committing to. I have to be aware of what I'm committing to.
Yeah, just like anybody, you know.
Exactly.
Not good things.
Exactly.
You know, eating. You commit to eating.
Exactly.
To do it over and over every day.
Committing to getting all the vaccines I needed. Growing up in Jeddah, it's right near the pilgrimage site, and growing up, all the cousins were rounded up all the time for our vaccines. My uncle is a doctor, and we were just filled with vaccines, you know, because Jeddah is where the pilgrims arrive to go to Mecca. And people come from all around the world with all sorts of issues, diseases and things. So the vaccines supposedly are to prevent whatever, but
Of course, they're.
yeah, and we know about vaccines now and what they're laced with and all that. So God help us all. And if so, things kind of continue like that, and just worsening menstruation, worsening pain, blah blah blah, etc. Thank God for the acupuncturist I see here. He's helped me as much as possible, and there's only so much you can do with a toxic body to keep pain at bay. It works.
How long ago was the first time you went to him?
I saw him 5 years ago. Yeah, 5 years ago is when I saw him for my ovaries. Mm-hmm. And he has this very powerful blend of herbs that within only a few weeks, I did another ultrasound and the tumors were gone. Mm-hmm. It's called Bajie Shao. Really amazing. And then worked, I call him the wizard. Mm-hmm. The only thing is he does all the capsule forms you have to, so it hasn't worked on MFS.
Thank goodness for good herbalists.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. I feel very... Yeah, he's actually, he brought the Qigong. He was selected to bring it from China. And he ended up in the United States, and he lives in Austin, Texas, of all places. So I'm doing that lineage of Qigong that he brought to the US, which just blows my mind too, that he's here. This master Qigonger, right? That teaches this rare style is living in all the places, Austin, Texas. And now I'm like, that's why I'm in Austin, Texas. Because of Qigong and then MFS. Because I heard about MFS here in Austin.
Oh, really?
Yes. So it was, it's been it was March of last year. I recall it was, late February. It was 1 year ago, approximately 1 year ago, late February. So it's coming up to 1 year. There was a girl who I knew just kind of like, she's friends of a friend. Mm-hmm. And I ran into her, and I grew up fasting. I grew up in Saudi Arabia. We fast as Muslims, dry fast in particular. And from a young age, actually, they would try to stop me from fasting. I was obsessed with it. I wanted to start even, I remember at 4 years old, I wanted to start fasting. And I don't know, the wisdom of the body, just like I think my body knew I needed something. And it always cut down the pain in my body post-surgery. So I saw her last year around late February, and I looked at her and I said, "Are you fasting?" I've always loved the look of a faster. There's something sort of vulnerable and tender and open about somebody. Yeah, there's like a light. And she's like, and I was like, "You look so radiant and beautiful." She's like, "I feel terrible. Like, have you heard of dry fasting?" And I was like, "I love dry fasting. I grew up dry fasting. What are you talking about? I've never heard an American talk about it." And I had not heard of dry. I didn't know the term, I was like, "Tell me about this dry." And she's like, "Oh yeah, I don't know what I'm doing. I found this thing and I feel terrible." But she looked, her hair, I had seen her maybe a month before. And this woman, she's like, her hair looks beautiful. Her face is radiant. Her skin, she's just like, and so she's saying this thing, but her body is saying, "Oh my God, like, thank you for this gift." Mm-hmm. And she's like, right? And I had been praying, I had been praying every day for at least 2 years, the strongest intention to be invited into something. I had tried some other fasting, some 7-day fast, etc. And I always felt, this was 2 years prior to finding MFS, And it, at the time, 7 days, it's not even a real fast because you take supplements. So it's, you know, it's like a faux fast. And I remember feeling amazing, but knowing it's going to be over. And then as soon as it's over, I'm feeling like rubbish again. And I remember thinking,
why?
I remember thinking, why does it have to end? First of all, it blew my mind that you can do 7 days. No, right? Because everybody tells you what, like 7 days you'll be dead, no food. You know, so I was like, 7 days, I feel amazing. What are they talking about? And I was so depressed when it was over. But for me, I had heard that's it. You have to stop. Like, don't go more than 7. It's dangerous, danger, you know. Wait 7 weeks and then maybe repeat. But I was praying for 2 years. Please invite me. Please, I want an invitation to something that will blow my mind. Like really blow my mind and be able to give my whole body a long, beautiful holiday. The taste I got of those 7 days, I was like, I will commit body, mind, soul, heart. Like, I will be a warrior for it. Yeah, it was like, I will dare to like dream big and be bold and magnificent and like terrify me, scare me, throw something at me that's, you know, blow my mind. And I remember, so this is 2 years later and she's like, oh, it's called Master Fast. And I had only heard of the Master Cleanse. I was like, are you Master Cleanse? She's like, no, Master Fast system. And she goes, I think you would love it. I hear you're a weirdo about this kind of stuff. Everybody says you're always trying weird Asian, you know, she's talking about Qigong, which is, it's a martial arts based thing. And she's like, people say you fast and don't even drink water sometimes. And I'm trying this thing and it's so weird. She's like, yeah, you, I think you would like it. I remember my body lighting up like, invitation. She's like, and then she said, would you like me to invite you to the Facebook page? And I remember going like, yes, invitation, yes. I say yes. She forgot. So I just added myself. Or, you know, maybe she didn't do it immediately, but the moment I got home to Facebook, that's when I added myself. And
is she still in the group?
I think she's still in the group. I don't know that she's active. But my God, I kiss her hands and feet, you know. What a generous thing to share with me, truly. And yeah, I don't know that it was for her. I think she did a shorter time and then transitioned to, I think she does a lot of fruit and stuff, so maybe she went back to fruit and vegetables. I spent the next 4 months. I ordered the tinctures almost immediately because I'm like, I don't care what this is. I'm committed. You know, I'm invited. It looks amazing. 108 days, no food, blows my mind. Dry fasting, khalas, like my heart, my body, my soul, I fully commit. I'm going to order the tinctures. And then I spent 4 months researching. So reading through the posts, watching the videos, preparing, you know, just like focusing on imagining myself, you know, past the 108, etc. And I wanted to finish the level I was on for Qigong before I moved on to the next level. I was on torso. I wanted to wrap that. So the day I started my leg practice, I started MFS. I wanted to have like, because also we were taking herbs. On torso, there was some internal herbs I had to take, so I didn't want to use digestion. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, for 4 months, it was, you know, building in my system. I couldn't wait to start. I was just, oh my God, so amazing. Yeah. 1 month it was 1 month before I started playing with kind of just going on fruit for a month before, and then the 2 weeks prior just kind of eating more normal and kind of going back and forth. But yeah, my mind, like fully committed, mind, body, soul, everything, throw myself in. Um, and do you want to hear? I mean, you heard a little bit about what happened, day 52. So I tend to, I'm very impetuous when I throw myself into something. It's with a lot of passion, and I can be arrogant. Feels just arrogant. Yeah, sometimes. Arrogant doesn't feel quite like the word, but I love to test the limits. So I was definitely pushing the dries very early, very early on, even though I read and reread the protocol, and I know, and of course, the part in my mind that was saying, Alia, what are you doing? This is not, this is slow and steady wins, right? You always do it this way, that you, instead of,
I like saying slow and steady finishes the race. We don't care about
right.
winning.
Well, there you go. Yeah, finishes it, But for me, there's something, I don't know what it is about my system, but there's something about, well, I could walk there, but I might as well skydive. It's
Yeah, I've done stuff like
yeah,
that.
yes. And it happened that my parents are visiting. My father is diagnosed with, which I found out during this visit because he's very secretive. He won't tell anybody. Even now, he's trying to keep it a secret years later. He has a very aggressive form of prostate cancer.
Mm.
And he's recently back in the US again. He's going to start radiation, etc. They were here several months ago. I was on day 52. And I had pushed the dries every single weekend. So every week, higher and higher and higher. And then I remember I broke at like 11 p.m. the night before and then started dry fasting again.
Was it you passed out in front of your parents?
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a hurricane happening outside. Literally, we had the hurricane in Texas outside. My parents are having a really loud quarrel. Everybody's fighting in the house because my mom really does not want him to go the traditional route of radiation and chemo. And I stand up, and at the time I didn't know you were not supposed to stand up fast.
Mm.
And I take a few steps. And I remember seeing like 3 spots in my vision, like, that's interesting. And then the next thing I hear, I was like, wow, somebody dropped a bowling ball onto the wood floor. And I was like, oh no, that's my head.
Oh.
Yeah. And I thought, I wonder if I cracked it. It was so loud. I must have just gone bam down like that.
You gotta be careful, guys.
Yeah. I brought it on myself. I brought it on myself, and I come to, and for a few seconds I can't remember. I was like, where am I? What just happened? But it all came back to me, and my parents are over me. Don't move. I'm already trying to stand up, right? I'm fine. I'm gonna stand up. Oh my God. My mom bursts into tears, and she never cries. She's very stoic. But this cracked her heart open. She's crying. They rang a neurologist and an internal medicine doctor who ended up showing up both at the same time to the flat, and then sort of having, I swear, I thought they were going to pull out their pistols and duel. It's like, this is my take on it. This is my, and I'm totally ignored, and they're, like, no, I have more, I have more authority here. No, I do. It was so funny to see these two. But my poor parents, I know their heart was, I've put them through so much already, right? I'm always trying these crazy things.
Yeah, well, this is crazy in most people's eyes because they're ignorant, or they don't have an understanding of what fasting really is. That's all it is, and they're in fear.
Yeah,
They're running in fear, people.
right. And thank God they were there, because what if that had happened by my, at least I got examined. I had a bit of vertigo for a while after that, but nothing severe. It was the impact, and thank God, like,
concussion, yeah.
no, I wasn't concussed actually.
No?
He did complete examine. Both of them, both of them were sort of like, I'll examine her, So they both examined me, and thank God, no concussion, just some vertigo. It is positional vertigo, so when I was sitting up or moving a certain way.
Yeah.
With some acupuncture and the qigong I do, I was given some meditations to do that really helped with that. And then my acupuncturist did the rest.
Yeah.
And the body.
Good thing it was a wooden floor.
As opposed to concrete?
Yeah, or whatever, tile.
Or fire. Could have been on fire. That, that experience has definitely altered how they feel about this. They were not happy about the fast anyway. And of course, now they replay that in their minds over and over because they were there to hear it. And, people came from everywhere in the house. They heard a crack. They didn't know what it was. Was it a gunshot? What? That was my head. Mm-hmm. So they're definitely terrified all the time. They were away for several months when my parents went back to Saudi Arabia. And when they got back, they're like, what? You're still doing this, insanity. And for the first time in my life, my mom, who is obsessed with weight, struggles with also anorexia. And she's telling me to eat. A woman that is very critical of food and eating, and if she's not anorexic, she's on, borderline. She's telling me to eat,
How much weight did you start and end up?
In pounds, I started at I started at 147.2 pounds. I did it in kilos and then converted it to pounds. So now pounds is the last thing in my mind. Can you remind me?
Okay. Anything.
Yeah, and I weighed myself maybe from 2 days ago, and I'm at 93.4 pounds.
What's your height?
5'8". 5'8". I'm living in the United States now. Everything is if all the tools are pounds and this and that. Even though I'm more familiar with kilograms and metric and stuff.
Yeah, in Canada we switched when I was in grade school, so I know both systems.
Okay, it's still the pounds and all this stuff still confuse me. I have to do all the calculations on my phone to kilograms and stuff. I'm ecstatic. I see people on the Facebook page talking about, oh, I'm terrified, I'm getting too thin, or I'm ecstatic about it. For me,
some people would rather have weight than feel good. Strange.
Well, I think if you begin very thin and frail, I have an understanding about, I didn't begin thin and frail. It felt quite strong, and often for me to keep my weight normal has always been a challenge. I have to be very, very mindful about the way I eat. I take on edema, inflammation, especially in my legs. They're very, immediately will get edemic. My feet will swell, my ankles, everything, especially in my lower body, So this has been, it's almost like, whose body is this? It's like, this is what I remember being as a child, like, more like you feel light and like a gazelle, and you can hop and play and dance, and there's no edema. And for me, I've had so many years of praying that whatever it was inside me that needed to get out, I just didn't know how. Like, I've had the smell of sulfur coming from my body has plagued me for so many years, as an example.
Wow.
And of course, people are like, just, everybody's body, just wash more, whatever. And I was like, this is not normal. I shouldn't smell like sulfur all the time. I would cry at night from it, just from the sometimes from the shame of it, but also just trying to figure out, how do I get it out?
Mm-hmm.
How do I do? And there's no way. I've spoken to doctors about it. I spoke to nurses about it. I spoke to dietitians, nutritionists, acupuncturists. People are just like, yeah, it's normal. I smell my patients all that. And it's like, so I tell them, I was like, this is normal? How can this be normal? Mm-hmm. And what I noticed, what I started to observe is when I smelled it on other people, I would ask them, do you have issues with your colon? Do you have issues with digestion? I started sort of putting it together. I was like, maybe it's coming from deep within. There's something there that it's literally coming out of you. And when I mentioned that to doctors, of course, they're like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, the fact that, some people have much worse breath, let's say, and like even like sweat smell, than others, just tells you that we're not meant to be like that, right? We're not meant, like, some people have much worse than others. It means that something wrong with some people, not everybody, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Someone's having trouble with their audio.
Yeah.
The sweat's odor. Well, there's a question here about the sweat's odor. It can be, for me, I noticed, for example, it would always change around my menstrual cycle. So before menstruation, for example, particularly 1 week before, there was the odor would intensify along with my moods and the pain and blah, blah, blah. But I do remember, and then thinking, is it then hormonal? What is it? And maybe it's liver? I'm not sure. God knows.
It's definitely backed up. Before menstruation, before bleeding, I have many clients who come to me, tell me I'm constipated 1 week before bleeding. And it's this week that it's interesting that you're saying that's the time you smell the most, right?
Right.
And it's just backed up
You're
waste.
Backed
When the waste is backed up in your bowels, it's gonna go to the rest of the body, your blood, your lymph, and it comes out through your skin because it has to exit somehow.
That makes sense.
It's not exiting through your bowels because they're blocked, and it's not exiting through your kidneys because most people have blocked kidneys. So it comes through another waste elimination organ, and that's the skin.
That makes
the skin problems are always related to blocked kidneys, which are due to blocked bowels.
Okay, and my father's side of the family, they have a lot of kidney issues. Kidney and knee, which I read can be tied together. And also, before menstruating, like let's say 2 weeks before, the cravings start to get in. So I'm eating also foods that maybe I don't usually eat, plugging myself up.
That's another one. The more waste in the bowels, the more cravings we will have because it's feeding the parasites, right? And the parasites want more food, and so you get the cravings. That's why when we clean our bodies, we have much less cravings than when we're eating. When we're eating, we're always thinking about food. But when we clean up, and especially after a week of cleansing and releasing a lot of waste, we have much less cravings.
Yeah, absolutely. And to address the question on the odor, for example, for me in particular, I know some people talk about maybe egg smell, sulfur being like, for me it was like onion, like a raw onion smell all the time, which I associate with sulfur also. I'm not sure, but I just remember, and in particular under the right axilla, so on the liver side in particular.
Yeah, everybody has different...
It used to switch, but in particular before menstruation, for example, that always on the right side. The only, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, everything. I'm going to pray to Jesus, Buddha, Muhammad, Allah, like everybody. Alhamdulillah. The only time I get the smallest whiff of it now is on the sometimes very extended dry. I did 90 hours for the 90 for the when we swapped over to winter solstice.
Mm-hmm.
During that, I got a little bit of odor under the right axilla. It was one night that I started sweating profusely, and there was a bit of that odor. And I remember I woke in the middle, and I was like, no, like the nightmare's back. It's like, no, I swear God, I'll be good. I don't know what I did. I swear I'll be good. Yeah, it was when, like it went.
Yeah,
it was just something releasing, but nothing like before.
Yeah, definitely. But it's very interesting how some people have one armpit smells more than the others, than the other, and it's one. You have one kidney here, one kidney here.
Exactly.
It's always the kidneys.
Something that the kidneys. You think it could be?
It's the waste elimination organs. If it doesn't come out through the fluid doesn't come out through your urine, it's gonna come out through your skin.
I was associating it with the liver because it was on the right side, liver gallbladder, but that's interesting. The kidney.
You mentioned you had edema for a while growing up?
Oh my God. I mean, my whole life, yes. Up until I started master, and that's when it's gone down. But the edema has been a problem since I recall it sort of becoming a problem around the time, a little bit before puberty. I started when I was almost 15. So I was, around maybe 14. I'm 40 now. I turned 40 during Master Fast, which was like my birthday gift to myself. Did you think it was fat? Do you mean the edema around my ankles and stuff? I didn't, because when I would press, I could see like the pushback of, like it looked like, and I could feel it was almost like it was sloshing around in there like liquid. And everyone tells you to drink. So I'm drinking water, and I could literally just see it go to my knees and ankles. Like, what?
Yeah, it's kidneys, right?
Yeah, that's, And
so the more you drink, the more you stress them.
Yeah. And my father's side already, they have so many kidney issues. But that's what everyone tells you. And what made it worse is a few years ago, I stopped fasting, which I loved, because I was told over and over how dangerous. And these are from my uncles in Saudi Arabia that are doctors telling us not to fast. These are my uncles, Arabs, telling me not to fast. They're saying we shouldn't be fasting. We're just doing it because my grandmother just do it in front of her so she doesn't get upset. And then they're saying, I'm reading everywhere, don't eat fruit. So I stopped eating fruit.
Yeah.
And I do remember, and then oh la la, no fruit. And then like you, Gino, I was on the high fat thing. Oh my God.
Yeah.
I did that for years. And I just remember feeling worse and worse. More liver gallbladder issues, more pain in the gallbladder, but everyone keeps telling you, no, that's normal. In the beginning, you'll be in more pain.
It's normal till your body shuts down.
It's normal until then you just have to have it removed. It's okay. Why are so many people against fruits? I'm hearing strong and yeah. There's
for a while.
They're talking about the sugar, especially now with Candida being such a trendy topic. I found in the past few years, everyone's talking about Candida. So fruit has it's become, like the Antichrist. So it's like,
the sugar, the paleo. Everybody's talking about that paleo keto diet.
Right.
They would go for that over eating fruits.
Right.
Yeah, I see people like that all the time. It's either they're doing vegan or they're doing paleo. It's one of these.
Yeah, I turned vegan, but then when you stop eating fruit, and you usually start compensating with I did more and more grains, right? My body was like, craving then more and more grain, and then feeling that thirst, you know, like I can't quench this, and no matter how much water I drink, I'm like, okay, look at my ankle, you know, just like I could watch it, and like fat knees, you know, like squish, and just like this knee is full of water. Oh putain, right? You just wanna shoot yourself. You don't know what to do, and I missed fruit. I remember I missed it. I've missed it every day for years. I missed fruit every day for years, and I just kept overriding that thing, saying no, but I keep reading. You know. And when I came to the United States, which I never did back home growing up in Saudi Arabia, is, you know, maybe you have 2 meals a day, for example. Lunch is the big one, light dinner, whatever. You know, I get to university here when I'm 18 and everybody's saying you have to eat, what, every 2 hours or so to stabilize your blood sugar. They're like, you're supposed to eat every few hours.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff out there. It's ludicrous when you look at it now.
Yes. You know, and then as a university student, I'm saying, okay, every few hours, that just gives me permission to eat rubbish every few hours, you know? They're saying...
Yeah, five, 6 meals a day. That's what some bodybuilders do.
Right. But at least they're saying for them, they're maybe eating very lean chicken and, you know, some green beans or, you know, maybe a slice of apple they recommend, right? Slice of apple with some peanut butter. But, you know, for me it was like, well, the only thing I get here is peanut butter and jam sandwiches. And how about another bowl of cereal? How about another scoop of ice? You know, it's like, it was giving me permission just to be a complete animal about it. 5 meals a day? No, sometimes 6. They recommend, it's like the 3 meals a day, and then they recommend several snacks a day. So then you're eating all bloody day long. It never shuts off. Yeah.
Yeah.
So intense.
It's what's happening. Well, the intermittent fasting has grown in the last couple of years. A lot of talk on intermittent fasting for a lot of people, but they're not doing what we're doing. They're just a lot of them are drinking. They're just you know, not eating in those hours. But the dry fasting is also getting more popular. When I started sharing, there was no information on the internet. It was very hard to find anything.
How much more popular is it now?
Oh, there's lots of stuff on dry fasting now. Just punch it in Google.
Oh, no, I meant in terms of when you talked with people, because the few times in the beginning, and I'll say a bit more about this, the mistake I made sharing with a couple of people in the beginning. Forget it, not anymore. You mentioned dry fasting. People have no idea what that is. Even in Austin, where a lot of people are doing intermittent fasting and, you know, paleo is big here and CrossFit, you know, people are yoga, blah, blah, blah. They don't know anything about dry fast.
Ketogenic and all that stuff. Yeah. It's that's what's out there, and it's okay. It's where people need to go to figure out whatever they got to do. You know, if the main thing that is out there is you always need something to add to your diet, and we're the opposite.
Right, exactly. It was always adding something, and I remember always thinking, this feels like insanity. Why am I adding more? You know, and then everything contradicts everything else.
Yeah.
Too much water, too little water. Do the coffee, do no coffee.
Exactly.
Grains, you know, like eat your porridge.
Yeah.
Eat lots of porridge. Eat more porridge.
Get rid of it all. We don't need any of it. It's just the bad belief system is holding us back. That's it.
And I look back and I can't, you know, I don't blame any part of myself for feeling ashamed and confused and more confused. And I marvel at myself for not giving up. I do. I mean, as much as I was terrible to myself, just the most hideous person to myself. The thoughts I would say to myself, I would never speak them to my worst enemy. You know, that was part of my intention setting when I sat down those 4 months preparing for MFS, was like, who do I want to be? Who do I want to transform into? Who do I want to polish all of this rubbish off of? To Rumi has this beautiful saying. It says, if you're agitated by every rub, how will you be polished? And it was like every rub just was like, I can't handle it. And so, but who do I want to be when I polish things? And definitely one of the things was, Habibi, thank you. Yes, Noor. Is I want to be best friends with myself. I want to treat my body with love and respect. I don't want every night, my last thought before sleeping was, if I could sleep. I've had the most intense, for a while I could only sleep for 20 minutes a night for years. Yeah. But I remember every night the last thought was, I hope I don't wake up. I hope I die in my sleep. And my first thought was, oh, fuck. Excuse my language. Like, fuck, I lived through the night. What a loser. Now I have to think of a way to destroy myself. And I thought, this is, it's like, this is not a life. This is not a life. This is terrible. This is why part of the reason why for me it's so maddening now. So I did 184 days.
What?
I did 104. Right. I broke on day 185. And since then, I've only had like a couple of mangoes. I just love fasting. I feel so amazing. But it's like the first time in my life, people, they're just like, I've had several interventions, by the way. My parents staged an intervention when they had an emergency room nurse show up. And I walked in and I thought, oh God, here we go. And she's screaming at me, you're killing yourself. You're going to die, And
nurse?
Because they told her what I was doing. And that was back probably near 108. And then the doctors that examined me when I fell on my head, of course, they were like, stop this madness. You will die in 5 hours if you don't drink something. Like literally, I have a neurosurgeon and an internal medicine doctor screaming at me, you are dying right now in front of us. You are dying. Oh my God, just...
From what they've been taught, that's what they believe.
Yeah. I mean, thank God for the Qigong. I did so many meditations after that to clear some of that fear. Because that's the thing. And this is what I've learned. I'm so selective about who I say, if anything, to. Because people, it's always, I have your best intention at heart. I'm saying this because I love you. You have to stop this. You're killing yourself. I get you're killing yourself the most. And I say, I've spent 40 years trying to kill myself from suicide and depression. The day I started Master Fast, I haven't had a single obsessive thought about depression or suicide.
Awesome.
Not one. I haven't said a single hideous thing to myself or my body. And if I do, of course, I catch it and it's an old program.
Yeah, well, you're still just open the doors and...
Yeah, but it feels so, it's like it's an old program, so it's an echo of something. Even if it's an old voice, it's an echo of something. To have that... So I used to say to people, it's like, you're telling me now I'm killing myself? I've been trying to kill myself. Or I've been trying to avoid killing myself for all these years. This is the first time in my life where I feel free. And I'm free of pain. And I'm free of you know, emotional sabotage. I don't want to take a knife to my wrist, and I don't have thoughts of burning down small villages. I mean, like the rage I've contained in my body also, just the rage I've contained. There, I couldn't touch anything else. I literally couldn't touch anything else. You know, the sight of somebody trying to hug another person would send me into such fury. I thought I might kill somebody. I had such intense reactions. I think my body just ran so hot all the time. So inflamed, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, that's your body just heats up. You know, we just eat cooked food and temperature goes way up. You know, so this just, you know, it just shows how everything goes back to physical and emotional obstructions, which are tied together. Mm-hmm. And when you start releasing those physical, the emotional blockages start flowing, mm-hmm. and everything, you know, starts straightening itself out and balancing itself. It's just magic. It's not rocket science, it's space technology.
And I'll say to those that are either listening or will be listening, etc., it's simple, not easy.
Exactly.
I would never say to anything, like I would never say, none of this has been easy. It's simple and elegant. Please be, one of the things I love about this system is how simple and elegant it is, which the most beautiful, well-balanced things are. And it's about removing stuff, right? You're like taking off the inside, taking off the layers, removing obstructions, removing layers of insanity from what you've been told to do. Do the coffee enema, don't do the coffee enema. Drink the water, don't drink the water. Eat the grain, don't, you know, you can actually, like your body and mind can rest, and you can like fall into this beautiful protocol, a simple and very balanced and elegant protocol that so many teachers, right, came before me to test out so courageously. You know, you've told us your story about basically frying your kidneys, right? I mean, mm-hmm. Right? I mean, you're your own alchemist, and you used your body in a way to test things, and look at us benefiting from it, you know? So I would say trust, you know, it's like have faith in the system.
Yeah, trust in yourselves.
Exactly, the body, right? It's like give your body the opportunity to do what you know it's designed to do. Yeah. When given the opportunity.
The system is just a tool we use, but ultimately, trust in your soul, because that's what created your physicality. So trust in your soul to put it back to where it's supposed to be. And we found a simple way to allow this to happen. It's controversial because it's not mainstream, and
that's one of my favorite things about it.
Most people are doing the easy things, which is what? Eating every day, numbing themselves out. It's easy to do, you know, just keep eating. And that's what the path of least resistance, to break free and allow the emotions to surface so you can let them flow out. It's not that's not an easy thing. Right. That's the challenge. The biggest challenge for most of us is the emotions.
But that's also why I want to say to people, if one person listening to this, when like a recording, or if you need to hear this, it is simple, not easy. I swear to you, if I can do it, you can do it. There is nobody I know with as many obsessive thoughts around food and eating. I don't know if I've met another person that is, or at least as honest about it as I am. Like, I promise you, you can do it. Commit to yourself, and you can do it. If I can do it, I swear to God, another person can. I don't exaggerate when I say almost every second of every day is the real estate in my brain is taken up prior to MFS with so many thoughts of food and eating and how to avoid the next meal or how to get the next meal or how to hide the next meal, or, you know, it's like an addict, you know, like I'm a junkie. If I can do it, I swear to you, you can do it too. Like, and you deserve a beautiful, you deserve a beautiful life free of obsession and pain and shame. And I promise you, you can do it too. It's simple. It's not easy. It takes a lot of commitment. And really the best things in life I found do. It does. Like it has challenged me. It's asked for, it's demanded discipline. It's demanded my commitment and recommitment. It's demanded every time I've gone out with people and they are celebrating, you know, especially here in Texas, Tex-Mex food, you know, tacos and nachos and, you know, and they have the margaritas and, you know, it's like eating out and drinking and partying. And I decided that I would still be a part of things, you know, and sit there. And it takes courage to do that, to still go out into the world where everybody is like, you know, they are stuffing themselves, which I only have compassion for, because I also know, like, for me, as many times as I wanted to stop, and I'm not saying these people want to necessarily, but no matter what I did, I couldn't. Like, the only way I could control this is if I punished myself, harmed myself, but then I would always fall back, right? It's like you always fall down again, and then you're in that shame spiral again. And with any kind of addiction, you have to break the cycle. Something has to interrupt it. And that's also part of the reason why, for me, I got to 108 and I simply felt like I wasn't ready. I felt like I wasn't ready to break. I didn't feel physically ready to, meaning like not even hunger-wise, but also in terms of how I didn't feel safe enough to trust myself to do that with food, to start reintroducing it. So I decided at least, you know, I'm going to go to 180 or even more and, you know, see what happens.
So yeah, you're working every day on this, on Master Fast with...
Yeah. Normal job. I train, we have Qigong school, which is a martial arts-based lineage. It's twice a week. I've been doing it, it's coming up to 4 years. I've done it throughout the whole Master Fast.
Awesome.
And it really only is approximately 3 weeks ago, my body felt like it was ready to break. And I started going into fear around breaking and the shame of introducing food back in, and I kept overriding that instinct that my body was ready to have, you know, even a little bit. For 3 weeks, I just kept telling her, no, I mean, I understand you're ready, and no, and my mind is like, no, you're going to lose control and be a monster again. And I wasn't ready. So for the past 3 weeks, I definitely felt my energy has been phenomenal the whole time. My sleep has improved. I've never been able to tolerate the cold. For example, and this summer, I've been here for 7 years, and there's a spring-fed pool here. Chilly. I've never been able to swim in it. I used to leave work almost every day on my lunch break to swim in it. I've never been able to tolerate the cold. I was craving the cold water every day. So many things, you know, the edema's gone, the veins on my legs, you know, all these things, right? Amazing things. My energy, my strength, like amazing. Within the last 3 weeks, I noticed all of a sudden my energy dipped, my strength started to dip, and it's because I was overriding that thing telling me it's time to break, and my mind, I kept going into fear around it, and you know, it's like no. When I did break, I only had one grapefruit. I did with one grapefruit, and I spent the next few days obsessing about the shame around breaking. Just obsessing around, how could I have eaten that grapefruit? And, you know, why can't I just, you know, forever go into like never eating, you know, why? I decided to get vulnerable. I think vulnerability, thank you, MFS. I do not equate vulnerability with weakness anymore. I always did. And I realized what I needed to do was I needed to make a connection there. And so the next time I ate, it was the Tuesday following that Sunday that I broke. I bought a mango, and I made sure that I ate it in the company of my parents, because I could feel my mind was probably going to have a breakdown. And sure enough, as soon as I finished that mango, I exploded into hysterical sobbing. For an hour, I could not stop sobbing. The shame, the pain, the fear, everything came rushing back. And my mom kept asking me questions. It's like, what is this from? It's just a mango, blah, blah, blah. And I had the most incredible experience with my father. I've never been able to really connect with him. During Master Fast, finally, he's always tried to love me, and I've always been, no. Things have dissolved and really softened between us, and there's actually, I feel, love towards him. And while this was happening, he did something I never expected, because he's a very logical type. He goes into like, how do we solve this? He's a mathematician. And what he did was, he took me in his arms and he gave me a huge hug, and he just held me as I sobbed for 1 hour. He did not ask me a single question about what was happening or why I was crying. And she observed that, and my mom did something I never thought she would do, and she hugged me on the other side, and the three of us were embracing as I cried hysterically for 1 hour. And I feel free in a way I have never felt since I was a child around food. I'm not saying everything is healed and perfect now, but I had Tuesday and Wednesday, I had a mango each day, and I enjoyed it. I ate slow, and I didn't cry. I didn't feel shame. It's like, and I'm on MFS weekly. I transitioned after breaking with the grapefruit incident. But for me, I knew that the transition after day 184, I knew that the next transition for me would be the emotional one, around facing eating again, and everything it brings up in terms of all the history I have with it, all the like crossed wires, and everything I've taken from my mom's anorexia, and from being a woman in the world, being told this and that about your body, and then my own shame around my own. And so this part of for me, MFS Weekly, when I think about my intentions and writing them down, it's really about for me, I just want to be neutral around food. Everyone keeps telling me, it's like, but food can be love and nourish yourself, and it's sacred. And I said, you know what? Take your sacred out of my food. Can it just be a meal? Can I be like a cat? Would it be all right if for my off day on MFS Weekly, can I just be a cat? Could I just approach it and eat a bit like a cat and then go off? You see an animal, they can do that. And the animal, they don't treat it like it has to be by the moonlight, and I light a candle and it's sacred and we burn incense, and it's like taking take your sacred out of my food. Can it just be, you know, something I eat?
Yeah. Just
and be
enjoy
grateful
the
for.
flavor
Right.
and let it, you know, do what you got to do.
Right. But not add more, right? Everybody wants to start adding things on. This is their take on it. They're like, you have to, you know, now that you're going to start eating again, you know, it's like, you have to come to love that or be, you know, like have a romantic view of it, or, and I was, you know, take it. I've spent more than 6 months simplifying everything around food, right? And taking the layers off. Please take your sacred out of it. Yeah, like a cat. When did I break? I broke the MFS. That was so I started on 7th of July, and I broke with the grapefruit on 7th of January. And then I had the Tuesday following that Sunday, because 7th of January was a Sunday. I had the mango when I was crying. And then I went a whole week like, I'm not going to touch anything. And then this Tuesday and Wednesday, I had 1 mango each day.
Amazing. I think you're the first one to do Master Fast Weekly straight after Master Fast.
It's because of you, Rana.
I believe so, because I think it's always hard to get into Master Fast Weekly, because especially after a long Master Fast, because you feel like you want to eat. Maybe people do it. Thank you. Happy to you.
And it's thanks to you. I remember you made a comment and you were like, wow, if you go into Master Fast Weekly after a long, like imagine how your body then can just, and I was like, oh yes. I set that strong intention when you wrote that, definitely. And I don't even know.
You're pretty strong to be able to do it right after, because, I mean, or just breaking with grapefruit and then taking a few days not eating. It takes, I mean, not many people do that. Most of us want to eat after breaking a long fast.
I mean,
so you did an amazing job breaking it. Really? No, I think maybe the best.
I will say again to anyone watching this, it doesn't mean that I don't want to, that I don't have thoughts around, oh my God, nobody's watching. I could break into a Chinese restaurant and eat everything in there. Or an Italian place and eat every bit of lasagna that ever existed on the planet since the beginning of lasagna. Mm-hmm. Believe me, there's no such thing. I'm no saint. I think about it all the time. I keep going back to reading the intentions I wrote down. Write down your intentions, reread them. And I also wrote down an inventory of all the pain to remind, like, was I exaggerating about that time I ate that bread? I was not exaggerating. It was that intense. Your mind is going to play tricks on you. Prepare. I prepared for how to break the fast that originally I was going to do 108. 4 months before I started Master Fast, I was already preparing how to break. Do your homework, prepare in advance, because your mind is going to play all sorts of games with you. It's actually not, I don't even know if it's the mind, it's the viruses. I call it a virus. Whatever it is, some people call it parasites, whatever it is, that virus that never shuts up is going to,
take over.
Yes.
It takes over.
And it's very sneaky and it's seductive. And sometimes she sounds so convincing. Right? That voice can sound so convincing. Write down things when you write. I have something that I call a remember to remember. When you forget, you need something to remind you to remember. So whether that's a coin or, something that you can touch in particular, it's like, oh yeah, like I have to remember what I meant to remember. That voice is very seductive. And for me, I feel almost blessed that everything was so bad prior to it that I was just like, it can't be worth it. I think the worse it was before, the more you can say, like, saw this, no way. And I would never be so arrogant as to assume that there's no way I'm going to fall, right? Like I think one also has to be very humble and prepare, you know, like that's why in the protocol I love that too, because it says, you know, you may make a mistake, just don't do it with dairy, or you know what I mean? Like if you're gonna muck up, please don't be a you know, like a knobhead and do it with something. You know, like for me, I always picture, oh my God, yeah, I'm going to fall into a jacuzzi of lasagna. You know, just like dive into a jacuzzi of lasagna. This will be my last meal, and then I will die happy. I allow myself, you know, I entertain these thoughts just as comedy. And then I try to laugh at it, but I try to turn it into like a comedy scenario where I'm bathing in lasagna and like washing my hair in it, and just to like get out of that play. Like you have to disrupt that pattern. Do it. I try to do it with humor. Speaking of hair, oh my God! Now I haven't had a shower, I think, in like 12 weeks. It's awesome. Oh my God, you don't need to like, now I do it as a treat, right? It's like, has it been 60? One time I went like for
you skin brush?
Yeah, I do. For the first 108, I was definitely doing it, you know, very, very disciplined. After 108, I've gotten a little bit more.
Keep it up.
I know. I always feel better once I do it. I was going to say selective. I was going to say lazy, and then I was going to say selective. And now I'm just going to say I've gotten naughty about it. So, and every time I do it, I feel so much better. Absolutely. So I'm definitely, and the breathing exercises when I'm more diligent about it, oh my God, it feels amazing. Learn your heart, the heart mudra. That saved me during all the heart palpitations, especially in the beginning when you're dry fasting. Use, oh my God, that mudra, so amazing, because I did in the beginning so many times with dry fasting I had, which you've said could be medication.
Yeah, most of the time it's medications that you've taken any time in your life where you've been exposed to any chemicals, whatever.
So if you're watching, very simple, and I swear to God, it works immediately.
Yeah, it's good for many things, this mudra.
Look at those videos. Gina, thank you so much for those amazing videos, and Rena for the protocol. It's so beautiful, and there's the videos on there. It's like everything is there. We have everything. It's the greatest blessing. Like we have it all here. You just have to look and reread and be kind to the admins on Facebook. I see people come on all the time, and you know, I think a lot of people are used to having somebody, you know, take their hand and be like, soft and loving.
Well, the other thing is there's a lot of people are sick, and they're taking it out on the wrong people. You know, people who are trying to help them. Maybe they've went through the system and been butchered pretty badly, and
yes, absolutely,
completely drained financially. We hear this over and over and over, and it's sad. And it's only because we, the people, are allowing it. Because this can end tomorrow. It can end tomorrow. Everybody stops supporting that garbage. But everybody's so conditioned, so programmed. They can't see it. And this is what we're dealing with all the time. You know, we're just here to support people and help people the best we can. We're not going to save the world, but we're going to change a lot of people who choose to make these changes. And those are the only people who are going to get the benefits. People who try, or people who complain, it's not for them.
And we love you anyway. You're a grumpy dragon, and we love you anyway.
Exactly.
I know what it's like to be grumpy. Believe me. Now I can't stop smiling all the time.
Yeah, it's once you start purging, it's just a relief. What's holy geez, how did I live like that before?
So now, I'm past 184, and like I said, there's been a couple of days where I've eaten here and there. The amount of waste that still comes out of my body, and I also do colon hydrotherapy, and I have the Kalima.
Awesome.
Dear God, how can one body have so much waste? I don't understand.
Forget about trying to understand it. We're actually built of it, and the body's just purging from every orifice, and it's remaking you from nothing, because that's nothing meaning no matter. It's doing it all through fields, and that's why it's correcting itself. When we're putting things in, it can't do the job properly. I don't care what you eat. I don't care how much fruit you eat. I don't care how many herbs you take. You got to stop and let the body do its work, its magic through the fields, because this is the biggest challenge that we all have, because we've been so entrenched and entangled in matter. We drink and body's absorbing the water and whatever else and the food. Nothing like that ever happens. It's furthest thing from the truth. So how do we, get people to see that when there's nothing in science to show that? Because science doesn't show you anything anyway. It's all opinions and
science is behind. That's for sure.
Make-believe stuff. So we're gonna do the make-believe stuff bigger, but in unlimited dreams, because the universe is our playground. And we can play in that playground anytime we want.
I know, and plasma. It's so mischievous and magical and playful.
It's simple. Soul created your physicality. You're creator. If you don't want to believe it, it's okay. Believe in the matter stuff or whatever you want to believe. But it's magical when we start tapping into the way things really work. The whole universe works on plasma. It is plasma. 99.9% of the universe is plasma. So, everything's creating a certain field strength, and they hold their position just like all the atoms in our body. It's the spaces that in between all those atoms that makes us up. And depending on the field strength, you have a different shape, different colored hair, different that. It's the spaces that have the energy. The empty spaces. We're made out of nothing.
Yeah.
Just energy.
Yeah.
But it's magical watching people going through these metamorphoses. Like, holy geez. Some people, you can't even recognize before and after. It's just amazing what can happen.
Yeah, Fran, I saw some photos of Fran.
Oh, yeah.
She looks so different. She looks so different. She looks like two separate people. It's amazing. Yeah. I was looking at her Facebook photos. Apologies, Fran. Apologies. You may think I'm a stalker. I just looked at your photos, I promise. She's so radiant. I mean, you were a beauty before, and now she's glow. I mean, you glow, Fran, you glow. And she looks like two separate people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's magical.
And I do want to say, for me, because you mentioned kind of on what to talk about in terms of the challenges, and I talked a little bit about the challenges, having people interventions, family.
That's one of the biggest for people.
Oh, it's very hard, and not taking on all the fear, because everybody's fear, they're projecting so much fear onto you all the time. So I would say be very selective of who you talk to about. I learned that very early on, because people can be mean. People have been mean to me about it. What do you mean you're not drinking water? Just projecting stuff and sort of
fear.
Yeah. But it's like a fireball sometimes in my body, in this very intense way.
Yeah.
I would say the other thing for me is I've lost weight and tell no one. Yeah, but people start to notice, right? For me, I've lost waist in my face, and I'm more heroin chic. I don't do heroin, but like
Yeah.
in the 90s, I would have been like a heroin. It looked like a heroin addict.
No more inflammation.
Yeah. And I have beautiful trust in my body. When she is ready, she will start to build back up. But I catch myself as a challenge looking in the mirror, and for me, it's like some people may look, I'm sure, will look younger, or even though my hair feels the best it ever has a lot of time, my skin, but this look I've never had in my face, they're like much thinner, and for me I associated that with looking older. So there some fear comes up. Well, I'm just mentioning as a challenge for somebody to like it's one of the challenges I'm. Oh, Habibi, thank you, I appreciate that.
We just need to embrace the transition time, which is years.
Yeah, but what I wanted to say about that is,
yeah, it definitely brings fear. I remember like
as a woman, you know what I mean, like,
yeah,
I think it's okay to name that.
Yeah. I mean, you look at yourself in the mirror and you see that you're getting smaller and smaller and smaller, and your arms and everything getting smaller. And then when you get criticized by others, you feel very angry. But the anger is because you believe it, because you see yourself in the mirror, and
that's what I'm mentioning. It's so easy to take that on and become, because at this point also what I want to be very clear on is we are taking so much care about, for me it was also about releasing stuff from my body that I built up in your fascia, in like the very fabric of your being. You have emotions and thoughts, and some of it was releasing, and I want to be so mindful of what I'm introducing back as thoughts. What am I going to fill this vessel with? And so it's so easy to go into, this looks like whatever, and what does that mean? And then create a whole story around, maybe I'm going to always look like that. So I'm giving myself permission to name some of the fears that come up. And I would say writing it out like an inventory, and maybe burning it or doing whatever, but not taking on that fear.
Yeah, definitely.
But I'm going to be honest about that. Like, I catch sometimes the look in the mirror, and I'm kind of sometimes, especially after a long dry fast or something, more startled about it. And fear creeps in of like, well, like, I don't really recognize this look. Whereas somebody like Fran to me looks so much softer and so much, but then we go into comparison. And this is...
one thing I want to mention here, I noticed from the Master Fast I've done, and even Master Fast Weekly, which is, I would say, I would lose as much weight on the Master Fast Weekly as much as I do, more or less, Master Fast. Because I'm always washing my colon, right? Like after eating, I wash it, so there's not much food left inside, But I noticed that when I go crazy with the dry fasting, I lose much faster the weight, of course. Definitely. And for example, now I don't like to do more than 12 hours a day of dry fasting at this point. At this point, but I know in the future it's gonna be longer.
Because also maybe you're a bit of maintenance, and
I mean, and I'm doing it now. I just started Master Fast Weekly again. And by the way, guys, it takes a long time to start something, so it's not easy even for me. I've done it many times, but it's always difficult to start. To wrap your head around it, get over the first few days.
Definitely.
Yeah, and now I'm taking it very easy with the dry fasting. So 12 hours, maybe 15 hours a day, I think is more than enough. And then 24 hours a week, so we don't need to go crazy, because we're deeply detoxing. We're detoxing so much by just master fasting, and you don't want to lose too fast your weight, because when you do, then you're going to look thinner and you're going to feel bad. And I have broken my fast, my Master Fast Weekly the past 2 times, I think, because I look too thin, So you don't want to, you want to find your balance. Nobody's running behind you. You have the rest of your life to clean up. I mean,
Right.
You did an amazing job. And I wanted to ask you this as well. Yeah. You probably did long dry fasting, right? And that's why you had the fainting.
So in the beginning, I was really pushing the weekly dries, for example, and that every night actually as well. And then, Gina, I love you, because I went on there to say, and I know the protocol, I read it, I was still being a knobhead. And basically, Gina was like, yeah, you're an idiot. I mean, you didn't say it in those words, but pretty much, which I love, by the way. I love that kind of fierce love. You didn't say it in those words, but it's pretty much like, yeah, like you designed that for yourself. What are you going to do now? It's like, how are you going to show up now? This is something that's how I've always shown up, because this is also about my patterns. I'll just push in the beginning to find that edge and then go beyond it. But it always had to be around punishing myself. And I remember thinking, wow, part of my intention for this fast has also been about softening that. Can I approach something with more slowness and softness? Can vulnerability not equal weakness? Can it be a sign of courage to realize this is not the right choice in this time? And so it was like, okay, I may have to break now because I was being a knob and I did it this way, and now my parents are going to do an intervention and force me to eat. Or I can completely rewrite everything. And I decided after day 52, when that happened, I was like, this master fast is going to change. I'm going to be doing this for years. The rest of, it's like I have years to do this. What am I doing? What am I running towards like a maniac, But even now I find myself, it's like, 12 hours? I could go to 15. No, how about doing like that part of me that wants to control it. And, and then my body, I listen to her and she wants to soften. And she's saying like, you've done, it's like acknowledge all the days you've done. So a few hours more that night, like 2 more hours tonight, is not going to make a difference in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, some people we don't want to push, and, some of them are going to get in trouble, which a few have. And it's not worth it because there's so much going on in today's man, in today's body, that we got to make sure everything is flowing out, because if it doesn't, you're going to get in trouble.
Yes.
And newbies just don't understand what's going on.
It felt so good also.
Mm-hmm.
I read you saying that eventually. Yeah. It was so easy. That's the thing. That day
it's easier than drinking.
It was so, and the freedom, right? It's like, no bloody juice. I've never been a fan of grapes. So for me, it's like day 1011 and 20 million of Concord grape, So I was like dry fasting, not even juice, nothing. Like, you're so free, it was like, I'm free. It's amazing. And it catches up to you. And I didn't even notice. I didn't feel parched. I didn't feel dizzy. I didn't feel weak. I just hit the ground, so it can happen.
Yeah, it happens very quickly.
It was wild. It was a wild experience. I'll never forget it.
The challenge of the master fast is not to do long dry fasting. You have the rest of your life to dry fast. You start slowly. The challenge is to make fasting a lifestyle. I mean, master fast makes it simple, but that's the challenge, to make it a lifestyle. If you want to eat, okay, but eat, of course, choose the best food. And the challenge is to incorporate more and more fasting days into your life. Master Fast Weekly, when I get into Master Fast Weekly, I feel one day is more than enough one day of eating is more than enough. When you do it for, let's say 5 weeks, and you get into it, and you will feel that 1 day a week of eating is more than enough. Yes, you miss the food as soon as you stop eating, like the next day when you start fasting, you start thinking about food again, but not too much, not in an obsessive way, but more like pleasure, of taste of, nice fruit, ripe fruit. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like, like you, but
there's nothing that digs like MFS out there. And it's so powerful. People just don't know what, if they're coming or going, they just don't have an understanding. Newbies that to fasting, they don't have the sense of what can happen in a fast. This is why we made it, very clear about getting up slowly when you're on master fast, when you're from sitting or from in bed, and
this
make
point
sure.
Has saved me.
Yeah.
Crouching down and if you're watching, this is the magic point, and do crouch down.
It works, and it works quick.
It does. It does.
Something so simple, but we need to understand what can happen, and and why. It's the body. Usually, every time people have these spells of dizziness and nausea, it's just before release.
Oh yeah.
Big release.
After that, oh la la! I felt like my entire liver handed over every plug. It was like the week following that was whoa.
Those are also
definitely
chemicals, drugs, etc.
Very true. Very
toxins that are just ready to come out. They unlocked from wherever they were stagnant, and they're starting to get into the circulation. The body wants to purge them, and it's not a pleasant feeling. Enemas.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Right. And that's why also I think I was so grateful that I had done so much reading ahead of time, because then I could go back to the file in my mind saying, oh, you've actually read about this. You're not going mad, just like calm down. You're probably going to be releasing a lot. You were pushing. Obviously, you're not going to do that again like an idiot. But you're probably going to be releasing. So, and that, every time, whenever there's a dizzy thing or whatever, I'm like, woo, I'm about to release stuff. Now I celebrate it, I'm just more careful. Don't jump out of bed like a maniac, Be more mindful, definitely.
Yeah, this is why it's a system, and we've tried to cover every possible thing that what people can go through and what to expect. And as we've had many people go through it, we've learned so much more and added here and changed there. And it's continuously evolving as we're learning and inspiring each other. And this is what it's all about, because there's nothing else I've ever seen out there that has this. I wish I had this in 1990 when I started. I plan to go through. Well, we have Arnold Herrick's book. There's a lot in there. A lot of good information. But
But as you said, I think he went very soon, and at the time, that was the information he had at the time, but he probably would have had a renaissance and updated stuff since.
Yeah. So it's just great to have a support group where you can.
Yes. Oh my God. It's amazing. It's amazing. Because also with the dries, a lot of times my insomnia comes back. I just hop on here and start to read stuff or watch another video or get inspiration, or reread an intention or build
it happens
furniture.
On dries. Don't worry, it comes and goes, and
the
more you do, the less it'll happen.
Yeah, no, it's grand. I just start building furniture or something. You know what I mean? You can also use it as a way to do a project. Now I can get stuff done. I don't have obsessive thoughts all the time. Now my to-do list, I just zoom through my to-do list. It's amazing. And I see people struggling with just to send an email at the office. And I know that feeling. I know it. That used to be me. It's like, I'll send that email. I'll send that email. I'm going to send that email. I'm just like, email was sent. 10,000 emails were sent, and it's 5 a.m. I'm done with, it's amazing what that clarity can start to move. It's so beautiful. Like it's like, it's real. And I'm reading when did my kidneys come back online and start filtering again? Do you mean after I fainted, or this is
like on the master fast?
In general.
In general.
Yeah, I mean, I started doing the like urine test and putting the jar in, and for me it was, I did most of that in the beginning. You know, it's kind of like, ooh, that's exciting, you know, science, you know, stuff. And then after that, I was like, I don't need any more. I didn't need more sort of proof around it. I didn't feel like I needed to keep checking. I talk to my kidneys, say the prayer, and if they're naughty, I'm just like, all right, kidney, you know, because they are, my God, they're kind of ornery. You know, now I realize, yeah, it's like you're saying, the right side, that right kidney, she's kind of, or he is kind of irritable, you know, like he's grumpy and he's sort of sometimes stubborn, you know, so it's like, guess what? We work together or that's it, you know, like cutting you off. So, you know, now we're more friends and it feels like that. Yeah.
So you started from the beginning, more or less, right? Started getting stuff in your urine.
Yeah. But I thought you were going to ask about talking. I've always kind of talked to my organs and body in general. I've been odd that way. So I've had that.
That's great.
Alhamdulillah. So I had that relationship with him anyway.
I have last question for me. And that's, what's your plan? So you're planning now, you're doing Master Fast weekly and you want to go with that as a lifestyle. You like that maybe, right?
Yeah. For now, that feels
for
right.
Now.
Yeah,
for now.
Another long MFS.
When you're ready.
When I'm ready, I don't feel hurried to do it or anything, because for me right now, I think my particular challenge is meeting the 1 or 2 days that I'll be off on MFS weekly and just, you know, coming to terms with the eating and sort of making friends there. So, like I've proved, you know, like for me, the easy part is like the fasting part where I can, you know, it's no food, right? This is the next phase for me, which is, and that's why I say like a long master fast I will come back to, but I feel like this point of my, whatever you want to call it, experience journey is about facing those days where I'm going to be off. And like, can I be kind to myself during those times? Can I prove to myself that I'm okay? Like I can have some food, you know, because right now the only thing I've done is had one piece of fruit on those days. You know, I haven't had more than, I'm like, oh, if I have more than one, what if like, ooh, you know, immediately I go into fear. So it's that place around trusting myself slowly, and maybe next week I'll have 2 pieces of fruit on the day I'm off. You know, I'm not sure it's going to be.
Great.
So for me, definitely, yeah, it's going to be, that's the next phase of this lifestyle. It's my lifestyle. I don't even call it fasting anymore. I just call it my.
Yeah, we fasting scares people, the word, and it's not fasting what we're doing really, but that's the word that people understand.
Yeah.
You know, we're living on plasma, light, prana, and we're choosing to eat whenever we want to eat.
And are you, you know,
dry fasting and like doing the everything else?
Are you attracted to, of course, with the Master Fast Weekly, we're doing the dry fasting as well, but do it minimally, like, because you don't want to lose weight, right? Yeah, you want to just stay sustained. But are you attracted to things like maybe liquidarian and maybe in the future more dry fasting?
The 2 years that I had a very strong intention about being invited in to something prior to learning about Master Fast, I had in Qigong, there's a concept, the Taoist concept of, it's called Bigu, which is, it translates to no grain, but what it is, it's eventually no eating, no drinking, no nothing. These are like Taoist masters that go, it's not even breatharian. They don't talk about the breath so much. So for me, I was like, yes, Bigu, you know, I was like, I want to find something that will be kind of like boot camp, like training eventually to transition to that. For the first 108, I was obsessed with the idea of eventually becoming, no liquid. I'm just gonna live off
on energy.
Right. And when I transitioned from 108 all the way till now, and I played with a little bit of green juices for a while to cool things down. That obsessive idea around having to transition to that has softened. And I'm like, yeah, when that's ready to come in, it will. And right now, I think, like I said, the challenge for me is those days where I'll be off 1 or 2 days and I think I need to heal that relationship where I can eat a bit of food. And
definitely. It's Yeah, I would say liquid dairy, and
right.
keep it like a long goal for now. Right. I wouldn't do it anytime soon. I'm just
or bigu, where it's like nothing. It hasn't left. That's where my heart is, and I feel that's where my soul is going to get to. But I feel like this is part of the transition there of making friends with that part of myself.
Absolutely.
Like a cat, like I said. I go up to my bowl. If I eat a little bit, it's just a bit of, bit of something, and then you go on your way in that wild and untamed way that animals can do it, where they're not conditioned to get obsessed around it. But it's definitely my passion, my love, my lifestyle, my
When did you finish the 184 days? What was the date? I don't remember.
So I broke with the grapefruit it was 7 of January.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. So it was recent. Today's the 20th.
Wow.
Yeah. So
6 months.
Yeah, a little bit over 6 months, I started on 7 of July. And then I broke on 7 of July. And it's wild, it was Northern Hemisphere, the height of summer, just, it's like, it feels like 1,000 years ago. And I was this other person that, dreaming of the woman, who was I going to be shaped and polished into, and just, thank God some part of me had hope that it wasn't going to be hell, forever. Like if you're listening and you're struggling and you're in pain and I've been there, believe me, we all have, right? And you can be this ridiculous and this smiley. Like people didn't even know I had teeth before I master fast. I never smiled. They're like, we didn't even know you had teeth. I can't keep from smiling. You ask a question, have you already spoken about how active you have been in terms of physical activity? I do a martial arts-based lineage of Qigong, which I train in. Walking, swimming, hiking. I had more physical activity than probably before. I feel like my stamina was even better. Occasionally on the dry fast, I would, obviously it could be a little bit dicey, and if I felt I needed to just lie down and take a nap, that's what I did. But I did not feel like it affected my physical activity, except on days where probably I was having a bit of detox or something. And then I would just meditate. I usually sat down and meditated and, borrowed some energy from nature, because she's so generous. But no, my physical activity has been amazing. Even though I haven't really slept more than I ever have, I've always been an insomniac, the quality of my sleep has improved. So I was waking, beautifully rested. And so for me, it's been, such a blessing. Did you break the dry fast with grape juice, MFS protocol? Yes. I do, and I'm naughty about that. I'm naughty because I really dislike the bubbly. I feel like I'm gonna gag on the bubbly every single time. So it's simple, not easy for me. Every single time I think this is the last time I'm gonna dry fast. I don't want the bubbly ever again, but it feels so good to dry fast. So I don't know. I'm gonna try swapping from bicarbonate.
Yeah, I was just gonna say
to
sodium bicarbonate. What's it called?
Yeah,
calcium.
The calcium water. I think I think it's the flavor. And the same water bubbly is very hard to do. Yeah, the bubbly. It takes me an hour to drink it. I sip it so slow. I'm like, bleh. Yeah. I've never. 94. Congratulations, day 94. Bravo.
Your second.
Yeah. Oh, it's her second. Lisa, is it her second?
Yeah, she's done 108
bravo.
last year, and
mashallah.
Her second.
That's so cool. Another weirdo. We're such weirdos. I love it. Weirdo club. You know, the map, like the eccentrics.
The cult, as people call them.
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes, definitely.
Yeah. One big crazy family.
Yeah, right? Oh my God. There's a lot of love. There's a lot of love circulating around. Sometimes I feel like it's gonna burst out of me. Oh my God, where did this well come from? Yeah.
The universe, it's unlimited.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. It's really beautiful. So thank you for the support and this time. And, you know, I want to make sure if anybody else has any questions to please ask. Noor, thank you, Hayati.
Yeah, we're at the 2-hour mark. And if you have anything else you want to share,
I'm just seeing if there's
anything that you've noticed improvements in.
Oh my God, where do I start? Where do I start? I can't even, like I said, I was sleeping at one point 20 minutes a night. I'm not even kidding, you know, like so sick. There's some nights now where I wake up to my alarm because I've slept 8 hours or so. I mean, I was like, 8 hours?
Wow.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, that's been happening more recently than before. Because before during the MFS, maybe it's like 4 hours, but it was like the most beautiful sleep. I've started dreaming again, which if you can imagine, years of not being able to sleep deeply, I could never dream. The veins, my legs have been a huge problem for me with so much edema and pain and varicose and spider. All of that is disappearing. Pain in my neck, chronic crushing pain in my neck, hips, all my joints inflamed, just every part of me inflamed, hurting, all of it's gone. I swear from day one, no exaggeration, gone. No depression, no obsession with suicidal thoughts, no obsession with self-harm, smiling, laughing, playing again, feeling mischievous, a deep love for myself and the rest of humanity, whereas before all I could think of was bombing small villages. Not even exaggerating. Rage, uncontrollable rage. Usually I would have to self-internalize it just because I didn't want it to go out and destroy anything.
Is that all?
Right? My God, there's like 1,000 things, and then all
it's like when we come out of those pain and suffering, we easily forget where we came from because you don't want to remember that stuff anymore. It's gone. Have you measured your height before and after? Like now?
So for a while, suddenly people were like, "Have you grown?"
Yeah.
There were people telling me. I feel like in the last 3 weeks, because I talked about this, the last 3 weeks, I feel like I don't know if I went a little bit down. I'm not sure what. even though I feel like my torso is lengthened. It's really interesting.
Once the body starts to hydrate, right, stretches out.
But I felt a little bit tinier recently, and I'm not sure. But it's like I'm not sure. It seems like a contradiction. So for me, I've never been able to get part of my torso lengthened. There was always this part that seemed collapsed, and now it's. I think it was around kind of in month 2 that my whole torso began to and my spine, which I've always had a large hump, the back of my neck where the cortisol, like a big hump that started to form, all of that dissolved away. So I feel leaner and longer, but I have this sense in the last 3 weeks that I'm smaller. It's really interesting. But that's like a play, that may be a play with Qi and Qigong. That may be a Qigong influence. I'm on leg level. Strange things can happen on leg level, they tell me. That Qi can start playing with your size and, so I don't think it's that. Habibi, thank you, Noor. No, definitely, yeah, that length, that beautiful length, and just feeling my organs open up, and the smell. I've talked about the odor, which it's like I used to rub my skin raw sometimes until I bled under my arms just from the smell. I mean, I would be in the shower cleaning myself and I could already smell the odor appearing, especially like I said before menstruating.
Wow.
And to me, what that led to was I started keeping my arms so close to my body. I stopped embracing people, and I'm actually, believe it or not, very shy, very introverted. I spend a lot of time alone, and I became more and more and more recluse. And I stopped even hugging or touching people, and I became more and more armored around my body. And now, I wouldn't say I'm like hugging people that much, but now I embrace people without, because it was like I was terrified of somebody smelling me. As a Middle Eastern or Arabs, we have a thing, particularly around odor, like you have to smell beautiful. I mean, everybody wants to smell nice, but it's next to godliness, and I was always so terrified of offending people with my odor. And I got so sad, my body got more and more distant and armored, like closed off from it, And now I have this freedom in my body to, sometimes in the middle of the night, I just like, I still don't smell. I haven't showered in 12 weeks. Not any, like in the middle of the night, sometimes I do a dance, I just cannot believe it. It is real. Still like and my mind is blown, and then I don't never wash my hair anymore. It's just crazy. It's so beautiful. And I don't want to be attached, because obviously things can happen and your body can go into a detox and maybe something could show up, and I don't want to create a story around that's the only way I'm going to judge my health. But it's certainly a beautiful marker, right? Yeah, so, and I used to have like nasal drip, and I used to get sick very severely, chest colds, strep throat 6 times a year at least, flu, none, never, nothing.
Wait till it starts coming out.
Well, actually, Qigong took care of a lot of that over the years. We use tools and kind of beat the organs. I've purified a lot of the organs.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you. Thank you. There's so many beautiful compliments. All of you, I'm taking it all. Wallah, I'm taking it all in. Thank you. There's so much love. You're so welcome. Thank you for allowing me to prattle on as I've done and just be as silly as my body wants to be, and just laugh and my God, I just feel like this is family, and I can be myself here. So if it's inspiring to anybody, thank God. If one person is inspired by what I say, if I can do it, I swear to you, you can do it. I swear. But you have to commit. Like there's no getting around the commitment and the discipline. Yeah. And the protocol. Don't be naughty like me. Yeah. Yeah. And dream big, right? Dream big.
Mm-hmm. It's the big key. All right, Ali. To anybody else, or otherwise, we'll call it a close for the night. We can keep going all night, but it gets long for people to watch.
Yes, I know. Yeah, thank you.
Nobody has all this extra time unless they're on master fast.
Yeah, right? Yeah, because Saturday night Zooms. Yeah, to plug in if you need inspiration. It's a great way to get inspired when you're thinking of breaking in the middle of the night.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so thank you for this time.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alia. Thank you.
Hayati, thank you. Thank you for the inspiration and the love.
You. Thank you, everyone.
Right, so
You're so
thank you so much for spending your time with us and sharing, inspiring.
It was such a pleasure. Oh my God, to give forward even a little bit everything I've, all the love that's been poured on me and support, to give it forward it's such a blessing, because it wants to pour forth, right? It's like my cup runneth over. Alhamdulillah. So
creation doesn't start without giving first.
Yeah, thank you for letting me be of service. It feels really beautiful. Yeah.
All right, so we'll call another Saturday Night Live Zoom and end it, and we'll see everybody back on the page Wednesday Facebook Live, next week's Zoom.
Yes.
And have some fun.
Yeah, much love to everybody. Enjoy your night.
Let's keep that plasma love flowing, and keep inspiring people to take charge of their health and their lives, and build a true wealth, because without your health you have no wealth. So thank you again.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's been wonderful. Ciao. Thank you.
See everybody again.
Thank you so much, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Ciao.
Thank you.
We'll see you later, wherever you are.
Good night.
All right. Bye-bye.